the life force of your bond. A power like life itself, unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 175, the one about episode 3 of the ACOLYTE. We're starting a little late today, but that's understandable, right? I
mean, don't matter.
We've all taken a nap for too long, right? Choco's done it multiple times, so I have my allotment. We're joined today by a special guest who has not been
for a podcast, though.
On Dyad for a while. We're joined by
starting strong, guys.
Luke from Podwan's podcast. Luke, what's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody? How are you? It's been a while since I've been on here. Yeah. I've missed it. I've missed you guys.
Missed you too.
Really wish I would have gone to California with y'all, but next time, for sure, we'll do something. We'll do
next
something.
time, Gadget.
Alrighty then. That's how we're starting this. Is that how we're starting this?
Yeah. Very timely references to Inspector Gadget.
Introduce yourself to anybody who's unfamiliar with the Podwans.
Hi guys, I'm Luke. I am 1/3 of the Podwans podcast. You can follow us on all social medias at the Podwans. You can follow me at Jedi Master Eggs if you want to check out my unhinged thoughts on everything Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon, which we will be doing for the channel reactions with Lady Dragon JJ and Mesa Windu every week. With a revolving, so it'll be me, not a Kyber or Alanis, myself, Mesa Windu, and JJ, and then a revolving fifth every week doing reactions to the House of the Dragon. So that starts tomorrow. So that's about me. And also CEO of the Kelnocker crew as well. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it's a little small on the screen. I'm just gonna have to adjust the CSS on that. Yeah. But Choco, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, just been having a lot of fun. You know, it's live earlier today. It was live with Josh. We had an amazing conversation with someone who was very adamant that diversity was killing Star Wars, and we had a good conversation. Sort of.
Was it good?
We ended up at a better place than we started.
Hey, progress to that crowd is like an inch. You feel me? It's like if you can get them to say, I suppose, that's like peace in the Middle East. You know what I mean?
Which is damn near impossible. Right. But I mean, here's my take. I mean, and this goes back to even not even just Star Wars. It's like Rings of Power also had that issue. And I was in a live with New Beta, Do Beta, and the Lord of the Rings crew that I frequent with, and they had a guy in the live who was literally like, I thought Rings of Power was genuinely stupid and dumb, but I mostly talked to hate on it so that it would give me views and give me publicity, like straight up. Yeah. And I was so taken aback that somebody in the wild actually said exactly what they meant. So it was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody here does it for views, because so the way that crowd works for their views is they're all kind of rampant and rabid. Yep. None of us want all of the views if it comes with the garbage that we've seen in the last week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
we would love the views of...
We would love that, Lee.
Yeah, we would love that. Just passionate fans. People who are interested in contributing to the conversation. I've gotten so many comments on my episode 3 discussion of... show is trash. Why are you trying to defend it? I'm like, I'm not trying to defend it. I'm discussing the show.
Yeah.
Discuss the show and its contents.
there's a difference between discussing and liking it. Like
I mean, I like
To
it.
be
though.
clear, I like.
yeah,
it.
yeah, so do I. So do I. All three of us like it. But like, here's the thing: like, we all have critiques of some
Yeah.
sorts of media. We don't all enjoy the same thing, and that's great because we're not all robots. Like,
Yep.
we're not AI. We're not like programmed to like everything. Like, we can have a discussion about how I think Boba Fett is the most useless show that we've had so far, and y'all can come
Where's
at me and be
Kiki?
like, you're absolutely wrong. Like, here, like, that's my biggest thing with Star Wars lately is just I didn't like Book of Boba Fett, and that was something that I like genuinely going in. I was like, so we're taking a character, right, that's had what, max 20 minutes of screen time, give or take, right? If we're gonna count the prequels, maybe 30-40 minutes, and we're gonna make a whole show about him. I was skeptical to begin with, but then I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna enjoy it. And I don't really like talking about that because it's like I feel like I sound like one of those like, oh, Star Wars sucks, but like I just didn't vibe with it. If anybody else loves it, like my co-host does, I only jab him just to get at him, just because it's fun to mess with him.
Yeah,
But
we're all friends, like, to
Yeah.
start with, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
but like the toxic nature of like starting your interaction off with, first of all, just really bad faith, very
Yeah.
vitriolic language.
mhm.
Like the I don't know if you guys saw this, but like there's a content creator, Ash Rendar, and
Yep.
she was
Yeah.
talking about the toxic fan base, and this one dude came in and was like, just because we don't like the show doesn't make bro, a hit dog hollers, like, stop. And he started yelling and said, have you read these books? And I'm like,
Yeah, no.
It got
That's not the
real
move.
weird,
That-
real
that's not
fast.
the move.
Like,
But
no, it's
her,
no, it's
her post was like, can people not like attack me for just like sexist reasons?
Well,
And then-
well, she's not the only one. That all started with M. Kenobi, who had revenge stuff put out about her because
Ah.
she loves the Acolyte, and everybody was making aware. Like, I on Pod1's Instagram story, like, posted her story, and she messaged me and was like, "Thank you so much." And it's like, you don't have to thank me. Like, that's like, you
I had no
nobody
idea.
nobody should be attacked for something that they love, and that's where I draw the
Mhm.
line.
And
Like,
nobody should
and I
have
said
to
it.
defend it.
No, absolutely. And like, my thing last night, and we made it clear with Natasha, like, we're not gonna stand for bigotry. We're not gonna stand for racism. We're not gonna. Our space is inclusive, or at least tries to be inclusive. I shouldn't say that we are inclusive, because that's a hard thing to do, but we try our hardest to make sure that everybody is welcome in this community, and we're just trying to do the best we can. But yeah, I mean, with this episode specifically, I loved it just for the implications of certain characters.
Yeah.
the implications.
We're definitely
Yeah.
going to get really, really deep into it when we get there. But our first segment, of course, is our lore segment, which is everything you know about Star Wars is wrong. So we'll do that with the star guest, Luke Eggins. Hopefully you have some comments towards this subject, and I'm going to hit you with it as a surprise, so you don't
Ooh,
get to prepare
interesting.
for it. But
Let's do it.
let's catch up with the chat really quick. On the TikTok side, we have Draco3 and 5 other anonymous people. And then on the TikTok side, we have KG. I just wish everybody could get real. Stop shouting shills and pills and chill. That's a great message. DePaul, Darthman86, Eliana, Dex and Download. What's up, guys? St. Pat. Let's go. Let's see here. Do not come for Mando 2.5. It was fun. Yeah, Luke, that's for you, obviously.
Yeah, I know. And you're allowed to have your fun. Like, that's totally fine with me. It just didn't. And just like I said, not everything has to vibe with you. Okay, like, that's like, if you love, like, the thing I absolutely loved about Book of Boba Fett was that we got Black Chrysanthemum, and that's the best. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
That's true.
like
Got-
and Garza flip. Like there's things that I
Chewbacca.
enjoyed. Yeah.
But we got the Mod Squad too, which is something that
I also
seen
Yeah.
in Sator.
so someone in my comment section brings something up, and we got to pour one out for one of the greats. Rest in peace, comic story, and that.
Oh yeah.
When I heard that, that kind of broke my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
that's
the best.
tragedy. Tragic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
would you like
On a
to
fun note.
would you like to extend a moment of silence?
I just
Just pour one out.
Yeah.
Rest in the Force. May the Force be with you,
Yes.
man.
I just poured that onto my stomach.
Luckily, it's there to catch it, right? That's the positive of having stomachs like ours.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Oh man.
That wasn't a fart. That was me kind of slurping on you.
Andrew, my chat. If you truly believe there's no regard for Star Wars lore, please give me an example, because we are big lore fans here, and we would love to hear it.
Yeah.
No
Anyways.
regard for Star Wars lore.
Speaking of which, we're gonna get into the lore. All right. Everything you know about Star Wars is wrong. In this episode, the Jedi do not indoctrinate its members. Now, obviously, this notion comes from a lot of people probably misunderstanding and confusing the terms dogmatic and indoctrination. Choco, why do people think that the Jedi indoctrinate people?
Because most people who dislike the Jedi are saying so based off of their experience with religion, and they are transposing what their life experience was as a member of a church that they no longer believe in. They transpose that on top of the Jedi, and bingo bango. But in reality, the Jedi are not the same. They're not a monolith. They don't believe the same. They don't act the same, and they're always encouraged. Their individuality is always like exemplified. Qui-Gon was asked to join the Jedi Council because he thought differently than the rest of them. It wasn't a bad thing. It was considered a virtue.
Yeah. And before we throw it over to Luke for his comments, we have to distinguish the difference between dogmatic or dogma and indoctrination. Now, the Jedi, of course, are dogmatic in that they push this kind of framework to serve the will of the Force, serve the light, and they encourage everyone to do so, much like, you would go to a congregation in a church and you're encouraged to love Jesus or something, just for an example. But as Choco said, not everybody is told to think the same. Yoda is the biggest example. He always speaks in riddles and lets them get to the answer of a question themselves. When in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka had a vision and she came to Yoda for an answer. Yoda said, decide how you're going to interpret this. You must. And, you must always stay true to yourself. And so we've never had any instances in Star Wars, in all of Star Wars, really, of the Jedi telling someone, you should do this, you should act this way, and this is how you should react to a certain situation.
I also
Quinlan
think of
Vos.
Yoda teaching. Quinlan Vos is a fantastic example of that. But when when Ahsoka was trying to learn how to fight with her lightsaber,
Yeah.
and we had that little short from the Forces of Destiny, and she
Oh,
couldn't do
yes.
it because she was trying to fight like her master. And then Yoda came in there with the BDE and started just pushing her around until she picked up the second lightsaber, because her natural stance was going to be Jarkat. And once she picked up and went with her natural instinct, that's when she could do things.
Luke, what's your thoughts?
So, have either of you read Temptation yet?
Not
No.
yet.
Yo, like,
Okay.
like here's the thing. Like, what you were talking about with Qui-Gon is exactly what happens to Elzar Man as well.
Yeah.
Like, not getting into any spoilers, there's a situation where the council's like, we want your perspective. And it's very just like, he is very off put, like he's very taken aback. And also look at what Soul's doing in this show.
Yeah.
He is specifically in this episode, he approaches May and Osha. He approaches the commune different than Indira does, which is very, very important because I feel like these two Jedi are so different in a lot of ways with their approach to like gathering children, not gathering children, but like recruiting children. And it's not even like recruiting. It's like what's a good word for it? I can't think of a good word that's not like that kind of is going with they just steal children. They don't do that. Like that's been proven in this episode. He like Soul literally tells Osha that she doesn't have to do this if she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect definition to this.
The
right
best
now.
analog I can think of, like recruit isn't a bad word with a bad connotation.
Yeah.
But I would say solicit is a good word. Thank you, KG.
Yeah, solicit. Yeah, definitely. Solicit for sure. Like, and this notion that people like blame the Jedi for everything is just absolutely insane to me. And we'll get to kind of the more like, because if you all know, if you all have been in the community long enough, I'm one of the biggest Anakin Skywalker fans, and everybody's big thing this week has been, oh, this episode has ruined things for that character, and I just disagree full-heartedly. Well, I guess we'll get to that. But back to the question. We're gonna have this, like, when are people gonna understand that the Jedi are the good guys? Like truly the good guys. They like, good guys are allowed to make mistakes. I mean, look at superheroes. Like, Batman's not perfect. Like that's the point.
Yes, he is.
to all this.
But don't ask about the Robins.
Yes, exactly.
I think
You know what?
I think what you're trying to say is the Jedi are the good guys, but you know they all have their flaws. You know, and we recognize those flaws and mistakes, and they don't come as a monolith because you know, every time we see the Jedi Council convene, they're all kind of like voicing differing opinions, and they're trying to come to a consensus. There's no scene where one person is like, we should do this because it is the will of the Force, and everyone's like, the will of the Force, we must, yes, the will of the Force. They're like, it's not.
No, I think we should do that. They all talk about it. Just real quick, I mean, and I know we're going to get into it in more detail, but you know, we did tell Andrew in my chat, you know, to give his example, and that was one of the things he brought up. He said, as far as the disrespecting lords, I think they shouldn't have gone into making children with the Force. It makes it seem like Anakin being a child of the Force is not as important, and that it wasn't as hard for him to be created.
But those are two separate different. Those are two separate different things. If you don't mind me going off,
go for it.
Is that all right?
Go for it.
So, like, here's the thing, guys. You have to think, like, in the Legends, like, and we're talking Legends here. This is Legends material, like, because we don't really have a concrete answer besides the Force decided to make Anakin out of nothing, basically. Like, in Legends, Plagueis and Palpatine tried to manipulate the Force into darker means, and the Force fought back and made Anakin in the light to counteract that screwery.
Which is
It's
implied but never explicitly said.
Exactly. So it's just like, what are we talking about here? Like, we're talking about Legends material that is not canon. It does not affect what is going on in the current canon. And that's point blank where the conversation should stop, in my opinion, because it's not relevant to what we are seeing on screen. Like, this is new things. Like, my problem with, like, and I've never been a big Legends person. Like, I never really got into, like, I just was put off by, like, Chewie getting destroyed by a moon. That was like, really? We're gonna kill Chewbacca with a moon? All right, whatever.
He yelled in defiance as it was coming down on him, though, so that was cool.
Yeah, and then Luke doing black holes, but whatever. But I will say that one of the best Legends novels is Plagueis, and that is one of my favorite books in general with canon or Legends, and just seeing the possible. And I heard that this show was going to take place 100 years before Phantom Menace. That got my brain going because it's like, are we gonna see that? Are we gonna see him? Are we gonna like? And my thing is that I'm watching the show and I'm enjoying it. I still have it in the back of my mind, like, hey, there's a possibility the boy could show up. We could get to Mask Holdings. We
Yeah.
know that he's a finance bro, and it's like, ooh, here we go. But like, I feel like some fans, and this is for fandoms as a whole, like, sometimes we just have to take off the mega fan brain mindset and just watch for what it is. Like, take it for what it is. Like, you can have your gripes, you can have this
Flower
and that.
Kimono Captain?
Yes, exactly. So you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, enjoy what you want to enjoy.
I also think
definitely,
that they should
and-
just take information as it comes. Like,
Agreed.
there's never a point where, like, in the middle of a show something is said and like that is like set in stone. That's everything that we need to know about that. Like, there's a chance that NSA is being hyperbolic or exaggerating.
There's so much I mean, that's the equivalent of, Obi-Wan says that Darth Vader killed your father, and then everyone's like, what? No, he said he killed him. That's not, they already established that, so him being his father doesn't make any sense. And you're like, okay, but you're finding out more information. And then the other thing he says is, no matter what your opinion is on this, the community has received this very poorly. And to that, I gotta say, we don't care. Listen, if your opinion is based off of bad information, is based off of wrong information, a false assumption, something like that, a misunderstanding of the lore, I'm not going to be bothered by how many people were fed the wrong information beforehand. I'm very aware that there's a lot of YouTube channels and things that share lore that isn't correct, or it's something from Legends and they don't specify. I'm very aware of how much clickbait is out there and how like a wildfire that stuff can spread. So the amount of people who get wrong information on a regular basis is astronomical. The only thing I can say is always go to the source. Always read the source and make the decisions for yourself. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. And to Choco's point, a lot of times it's a creator that is espousing information they've gotten from a source, but it includes commentary that doesn't have the context. So when we're talking about the Dagoyan Master scenario, and people bring it up and say, hey, in the Clone Wars, they were labeled kidnappers by the Dagoyan Masters. And I think that's true because, the Jedi are evil, and, so when it includes that commentary, it is baseless. But we're always going to give you the source and what it says and not be kind of talking heads on the matter. And in that case, the Bardottans were sending their children to the Jedi Order to train, but the Dagoyans wanted them to train as in the Dagoyan tradition and viewed it as kidnapping. So the Jedi, to avoid like a political kind of, I guess, a political mess, they just returned the children. But in any case, back to the subject, the Jedi do not indoctrinate. They're dogmatic, but everybody thinks for themselves. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Mace Windu, Quinlan Vos, they're all, Kanan Jarrus, Depa Billaba, they're all filled with Jedi who think for themselves and make decisions for themselves. One key example from the Living Force is when, we learn that this one Jedi had recruited someone and did not follow protocol. And set them up for success, the people that they were kind of seeking for. And Depa in that book is just like, I know what you're saying. They should have, like, and that's just So, you know, you
Yes.
always have to treat them as the individual and not the Jedi, because the Jedi have those protocols and these things put in place to make sure that the people are cared for. And sometimes that person doesn't do it. Sometimes people are lazy, and you get Jedi that are Anakin and they become a Sith.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. Like in that book, and that's by the way, Yariel Poof just moved up in my top 5 after that. Yes. Oh my god.
Who I am.
The fact that he makes his like, he's been around for so long that he's just like, I'm gonna make it everybody's problem that I'm this old and I want to change things up, and that's just perfect. I love that. But no, like, it's just like in real life when somebody screws up at work and you have to clean up the mess. Like that's how this feels. Like that scenario, like they didn't check all the boxes. Sometimes we get lazy and we miss things because we're not being hyper focused and we're not tuned in, and it happens. Like that should be very relatable in real life. And the Jedi, it's not that. And to go back to the whole thing of like, they're essentially they're propped up, yes, because they have the ability to commune with the Force, but they're also human / you know, they're vulnerable. They're allowed to make mistakes. They're not perfect, and we see that all the time.
One of the reasons I love Qui-Gon is
Choco, put a cap on this.
Is because he's problematic, right? Because he makes questionable choices. You know, you can't just mind trick people and rob them and stuff like that. That stuff is not quite okay. But yeah, overall, we constantly see very independent, very individualized Jedi. It's only the Sith that seem to follow a monolithic behavior. But yeah, I wouldn't say that they are indoctrinated, because they aren't forced to do this. They're not forced to do it uncritically. They're allowed to make their choices, make their mistakes, and also they're allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
We look at it too much like a religion. It's also a job. You could just leave and do something else if you don't want. If you don't want to, and they support you. They're cool with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's the end of that topic. Unless anybody else has some more to add to it, I think we've been perfectly clear. There's a lot of examples, and it's just the open and shut case at this point.
Yep.
But I do want to point out, since we did mention the Living Force, St. Pat says Ki-Adi-Mundi is autistic, and now I feel a kinship with him. The first time I read him trying to order some shaved ice, and like he was like, he's like, isn't the shaved ice a flavor? You should charge for that. You know, fix your problems. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
and it just like opened up my eyes. Like I'm like, now the droid attack on the Wookiees makes so much more sense now, because it's like, all right, you're very meticulous. We get it. You weren't just being a jerk. He has social issues. Yes.
But just that shaved ice as a flavor.
On the floor in the middle.
Yeah.
But just that instance alone, I was like, dang, like I still hate him, but like
he's still
I
not my
understand
favorite.
why he was acting that way. Why he did what he did in certain social situations. Qui-Gon and Yoda scheming together. Listen. Yoda's always scheming. He's always chewing on that stick and scheming. That's why he's not indoctrinated.
No, he just gets high off his stick and he just speaks absolute nonsense. Like honestly, somebody's got to make like a funny story, or like from a certain point of view, just like in the Phantom Menace, he's just like been eating the stick the entire time, and that's why he doesn't.
That's why it changes from movie to movie. He's got to repair it.
Yeah.
That's why he was the puppet originally. Is like he
Yes.
had been on a bender too long, and it took its toll on his skin.
Yes. And the Jedi Council he like accidentally said
Did an
something
intervention.
wrong during they all like Ki-Adi-Mundi is like, Master Yoda, the stick. We got to get rid of it. You've been making poor decisions. You let that Skywalker kid in. Come on. But
And
then
then
again,
Yoda's like, "Doctrinate, we don't."
yeah. Oh man, that's so fun. I forgot about that stick.
Yeah, still to this day, my most viewed video.
That is hilarious. I forgot about that. That's funny. That's a really deep cut. Because wasn't that one of your first videos?
No, it wasn't my first videos. I think I was already making videos with this camera, but I think it was like a year or something ago.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I mean,
later than
I looking back at that video, I definitely came in hot. I was like, I can't believe no one knew. But I was like,
Yeah.
I found out when I got the book and read it. So, it's interesting.
I might make a. It's been enough time. I might make a video on that and see if I can go viral for it now.
and then a year later I'll do it, and we'll see who gets the bigger views.
Experimentation.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to make a viral video? I think there's a concept from Legends that I think would be popular very quickly. And that's Jabba the Hutt can eat people,
Which makes sense.
Yeah,
It
if we
makes
think
sense.
about snakes and how the biggest anaconda can eat something that is 10 times their size,
Yeah.
we look at a tease.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah,
Just-
they can
just-
probably
just
eat.
Picture it.
I mean, a
Oh,
human's not
good
even 10
Lord.
times their size. They're literally like a fourth their size.
So like
So-
if you think about it, like when he's eating those like frog things, that's equivalent to us eating a goldfish, like actual like goldfish
Yeah.
crackers.
Yeah.
And then that is so weird but funny at the same time.
Yeah. I mean,
Your
Choco, you
Master
should make
Man
the video.
said he did look like he wanted to eat Leia,
He could have.
Oh my!
which is weird because it begs the question: is like, why is Leia even here? Like, why is he interested in that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is he?
So also like speaking of Jabba, like I was reading from a certain point of view, and it's I can't remember. It was the one story with the girl interviewing everyone.
Yeah.
And Leia was talking about how evil Jabba the Hutt was, and whoever wrote that story, I gotta remember who wrote that story. They did a fantastic job. Like, I cannot wait for the certain point of views to come out for the prequels, because man, there is potential there with a lot of. Because I mean, Mike Chen got his start in Star Wars from a certain point of view with writing. I think he wrote the Palpatine part in Empire Strikes Back, if I remember correctly.
That's how
so,
DJO
like-
got his start too.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives writers a chance to write in this, and a lot of them are huge fans.
That might
So
be
it's
my
just-
fact paw. If I ever have a chance to write a fact paw for Star Wars, it's the Geimer stick with Yoda.
Oh, there you go. Which book would you put it in? Would you put it in Phantom Menace then? Because he's the weirdest in Phantom Menace, I think.
If you use the puppet version, yes.
Yeah,
That's totally someone that gets baked. I think the Phantom Menace or even Attack of the Clones. All three of them,
yeah.
it's possible. There's moments where he enters from stage left and is like, "Whoa!" It's like so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when he's talking to the children, that also makes sense. Like he does
True.
it just to, like make sure that he's like
He's like at his
he's gotta
desk
be in the mind of a
planning the
child.
he's planning the
Yeah.
what is it called? The curriculum. The
Itinerary.
younglings come in. He's like, "Oh, you're here."
That's why he always asks more questions, because he's too
Yes.
big to know the answers. He's just
Exactly.
like, what do you think the answer is? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You just gotta
yeah,
say it in that speech pattern. What do you think is the answer, Liam? What?
No, it's just like Liam. Did they? Yeah, you're right. They it must have been erased. That's good. That'd be hilarious.
Corvid MP in my TikTok says maybe they don't force the children to join, but there's a power imbalance present when they ask, no matter how nicely they ask, and that is true.
That's true.
Except the power is more often than not shifted back to the person for their for their decision. And it's much like a college recruiter coming to visit your house. They have the power over you. They have the power to accept and the power to deny your higher education, and your parents are present. They have to give permission, and they're talking to you about what you would like out of your, college experience, and they're trying to get to know you. But more importantly, they're like, do you want to come? Do you want to, attend our school? In this case, it's the Jedi, and Soul is there. It's not like really, he's not really like for protocol purposes asking nicely. Like, he's genuinely concerned and cares about what they want. Now, Indara is a little bit more kind of rough around the edges, like, we have a right to test the Padawans with your permission, of course. She's like, it's a little weird, but Soul represents that kind of like, we're just here. We want to see if they want to train as a Jedi, and it's always been about what Osha wants. The power definitely, the power dynamic is there. You're correct about that, but just like we said earlier with the individualism of the Jedi, certain Jedi try to shift that power back to the parents, and in this case Qui-Gon also shifted it back to Shmi, and Shmi shifted it to Anakin. So I love the stories where, like, it's like you ask the parents for permission and the parents talk to the kid and the kid is allowed to decide. What do you guys think?
Yeah. No,
I think.
No, go ahead.
I think this means we should just get into talking about the Acolyte, because that's where we'll be able to get into more depth, and we don't want to cannibalize ourselves.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. I just switched. We're in Acolyte now.
The Acolyte.
You mean the Wokolite? Apparently,
that sounds like a water sweetener.
I know. We were saying it last night, and it's just like as a joke because so many people just don't understand that word, and it's
Just
hilarious.
a couple of squeezes of Wokolite.
I saw a video. I haven't been able to find the source and see if it was true, because it was right before I went live. But there was someone selling freedom water, and it was like, make a statement that you're
God.
woke. Buy our water, only $25. And you're like,
Whoa, no. You gotta sit there and be like, wow, this is some good freedom water that I got out of my faucet for free.
That's why I'm like, no, I'm gonna make an energy drink and be like, or a sports drink, and like it's full of Wokolites.
Oh my gosh. I made the connection to water sweeteners. He made the connection to electrolytes. Got it.
Got it, yeah.
But that's worse than bathwater. At least the bathwater has some inherent perceived value, right? Like, you take the customer and they're like, she bathed in it. That's got some value. Whereas somebody getting tap water and doing nothing to it and selling it as a freedom water, it's a little sus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it's a great No Doubt song as well. But how did you guys feel about the episode overall? Just a 10,000-foot view. Did it do what it needed to do? How were you in? Were you in on the Acolyte from episodes 1 and 2? And did this add to it? Detract from it? What do you think?
I'll throw it to Luke really quickly and just address David Xanatos in the chat. The energy drink should be called ACOLYTE.
There you go. I was bought in.
Speak to a branding expert.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you truly do. I was bought in. So I was lucky enough to see a screening, and I will say this about seeing it on a big screen. And this is going to be my pitch to Disney. So Disney, please do this. They should they should see, how they get the specific theaters. Every Tuesday night, they should do a screening of the new episode each week and do it as hey, you can buy a package for 8 weeks to where you are guaranteed a ticket each week, and you get to watch it on a big screen. Do you realize how many people would do that?
I think more streaming services should do that.
They should do that,
or even weekly. Like, it's tough in the film industry, in the box office, to have like a movie that kind of, it's a tent pole every couple of months. Just take big tent pole TV shows and show them every week.
No, yeah, put them on because it's a Tuesday night. Oh, we gotta take whatever movie's going on right now. Like, oh, we gotta dedicate 2 less screens. But like, you'll make hands over fists for Star Wars fans to go see it.
And stuff.
And yeah, you'll see. Like, I went to that and I was like, this is a genius idea. Like, why has nobody done this? Like, why hasn't Disney jumped in this opportunity of, hey, people will, like, look at the Lord of the Rings, for example, right? They just did the re-release of the 4K extended editions, and it was a smashing success. All 3 movies, you could go and see all 3 movies in select theaters. Like, that's a no-brainer to me. Like, Star Wars needs to jump on that bandwagon. But going back to the experience, I watched it. I was kind of iffy on it, and then I came back and watched it again, and I was like, okay, because I was like, circumstances aside, I was watching it with Alanis, and I was like watching her enjoy it, and I was just like, she was pointing out things that I was missing, and that's what made me really, really, really start to enjoy it. And then episode 3 happened, and I was like, all right, sweet, I'm in. Like, I don't need any more. Like, let's get more of this, because not only did we get Kelnaka at the end of episode 2, but he had some pretty importance here, and we'll talk about that as well. And it's great.
Just really quickly, let's talk about that. Osha comes up, hi, and Kelnaka just like turns.
Yeah. No, that's just like the he just looks at her, and he's like, and also he's got a bandolier. Like, can we make it canon that like all Wookiees like wear bandoliers, like, as like it's like a thing?
They don't have pockets.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so cool, but like seeing him just work on the thing, oh, it's great.
I want, the thing I want is, sometimes they wear clothes, like when they're a Jedi, sometimes they don't, and I want that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I want
just
them to show up
pants
and be like,
"This is my stay-at-home jeans."
or they're training, and they're like, okay, we've been talking about it. No one wanted to bring it up, but you're naked, and it's weird. Can you put some pants on or something?
It's like the robot chicken.
Like, all right.
It's like the robot chicken skit. Oh man, Chewie, I'm so excited to meet your family. All of it, the door opens, and all of them have clothes, and he looks at him and he goes, so you've been meaning to tell me that you've been naked this entire time. And then Chewie goes, and goes to hug him, and he's just like, what?
Ooh, but Eliana in the chat makes an interesting point. That's cultural assimilation.
Yeah.
Right? So they may not view themselves as naked because they're covered in fur.
Oh, I know. That's why I wanted to hear the conversation of like being like, Kelnaka, I know it's a culture thing. Some people are uncomfortable because sometimes we can see your coin purse. And
Kelnaka is like, well, sometimes I don't want to see people in clothes. So who has more of the power in deciding which culture reigns?
Man.
But you're right. You're right though. It is normal. It's just there's just a funny conversation somewhere in there.
Also, KG says, I heard Kelnaka is a she. I would like to establish that so we don't misgender Kelnaka continuously. So
yeah, that would be nice.
Wherever that was, please let us know. But for me, the 10,000 foot view of it was, I was already into it, to be quite honest. It was my most anticipated show for the expansion of Sith ideology. Everything that Leslie said about the show was just A+ to me. You know, the inspiration from Treya, the expansion of Sith ideology is like, we need more of this. You know, I'm not a Sith fanboy, but we need to see
Yeah.
more of their viewpoint, so people stop being like they're rock stars, you know. And then like I had my concerns about them revealing or letting the cat out of the bag really early, but then I realized that wasn't the cat, you know.
No.
They just kind of loosened the drawstring a little bit, and I was like, oh, there's more. And then episode 3 came out. I was like, okay, I know what happened, but what happened? Because like now they revealed what happened as the next kind of carrot on the stick, and then we got what happened, but then we didn't get multiple points of views. We're still waiting on that, and so like the mystery and the intrigue builds upon itself as it continues to unravel, and that's what I absolutely loved about episode 3.
I love that that Luke's whole face lights up with his monitor.
Sorry, I'm just looking. I'm looking up to see if we have confirmation whether Kelnaka is male or female.
That's his don't forget I'm white light.
Bright light.
Like we
Bright light.
like we didn't need that already. Come on.
I mean, listen, the hat does obscure a little bit of light, and therefore
That is
you
true.
could be seen
Hold
as
on.
like a white
I've been
passing
in-
Spanish person.
I just forgot that I didn't turn my other ring light on. So here we go. Now better lighting.
There
Now you
go.
can really see my whiteness. I'm not a ghost.
Jackson Download says almost like the Sith themselves, hidden shadows and subterfuge. Yeah.
Man, one of my favorite things. I mean, for me, I was already in, but this episode gave me my favorite thing, which is more Force lore, more Force
Yes.
customs. I want all of them. Give me all of them. You know, the thread was such a cool way to think about the Force, because it's so correct. Where you're thinking, if you think about it as a thread and how it connects to people's fates and destinies, and how it binds the galaxy together and penetrates like thread. It makes it's such a natural way to think about it, you know, just like they've done a really good job where like the Zepho have the life winds, and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's life winds. And you know, we have
There's the
tide,
Mist Weavers
we
too,
have
right?
the Mist Weavers, yeah.
Yes.
There's the Ashla from what's his name's people?
Lasan.
Oh, the Lasan.
Sots, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so plus if you read the High Republic and go to the Convocation of the Force, you find out
Yes.
a lot of different Force cultures.
Yeah.
What did the Sorcerers of Tune call it? The Unity? The Sorcerers of Tune? I think it's the Unity for them.
I forget. Yeah.
And it's very reminiscent of the expanded universe, where, you know, especially with Jason Solo, where after the Yuuzhan Vong, he goes on a 5-year walkabout and is hanging out with like the Ang-T people and learning different things, and they just like they touch an object and teleport it. It's weird. It was that part was kind of dumb, but whatever.
That's crazy. Oh my God, they learned instant transmission.
Yeah, and he could also walk into the past and potentially disturb it. It was there's a lot of stuff in there.
We have
I'm
the
sorry.
Dagoyan
Nope.
Masters, the Frangol cult. We have the Convocation of the Force. Lots of different Force users as well from there. Even
Yeah.
one that want the dark side that wanted to join, but that
Yes.
one individual in the faction had some like shady
Sus.
business.
Now, I've made it very clear I did not enjoy the witches chanting, because
It's a little weird.
how they're saying, oh, you know, of one, of two, and all this stuff, until someone, Lord Dagobert, came into my chat and they said, it's not weird, it's just in English. I was like, oh, god damn, he's right.
Oh yeah.
If it was
yeah.
not in English,
It would be different.
then it would be different. I remember being a little kid obsessed with dinosaurs, like, oh, this badass Triceratops, like that's a tough
And then
name.
dinosaurs premiered,
And
and,
then
they
I-
were talking, and they were
Well,
a family,
and then
there was a
then
baby
I found
dinosaur.
But then I found out, oh, Triceratops means 3 horns on the face. And I was like, God, that's stupid.
No, you're
That's
right.
not
you're
a
right.
tough name at all. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
if it's in English, it might suck. Now, could they have done that? Yes. But maybe they just wanted
yes.
people to understand that it is I mean, whatever they're doing, it's got to be an artificial dyad.
Yeah, but I also think they were trying to diverge from that doctrine. So before the ascension, Anastasia has a speech, and she says, "This is a ceremony that we will not have enacted since our exile." And then she says, "We were hunted down, forced into hiding." Those are 2 different things.
Yes, they are.
When you're exiled, you're not hunted down. When you're hunted down, you're not in exile. You are literally just being pursued. And so I think that if we take this is my theory crafting. If we take the Jedi Sith War and we take all of the laws banning the Sith religion, and of course the tail end of that war, you would still
And
have
language.
you would
Yep,
still
language
have
is different.
Jedi kind of going around and hunting down the Sith. But then this group wanted to diverge from the doctrine. They wanted to go from the 1 and the 2 to the power of many. And the Sith were like, nah, screw that. We're going to exile you. So I don't think they were part of the Sith, but rather kind of ideologues of the Sith. And it was kind of like Church of the Force with the Jedi. It's like a Sith church. And the Sith were the ones that exiled them. And the Jedi were the ones that were hunting down all of the Sith. So the Sith were hunted down, forced into hiding. But then the Sith themselves excised them from the larger kind of order. And so they went from, the power of the rule of 2 to the power of many. And then they got Shanae.
That also, again, makes me think of the Acolytes of Beyond, who worship the Sith. They are not the Sith; they worship the Sith. And if they worshipped that ideology, then that could also very well be a thing.
Absolutely. And Stygian Siren, shout out to Dawn.
Yeah.
Also brought up that there was a hooded figure in the Ascension that was completely obscured, and we couldn't see their face.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the person that did like the mind flay on Torben. And NSA was like, yeah, I mean, if you don't want that to go any further, just kind of like on her soapbox.
You lucky he's holding me back.
Yeah. No, the other thing is like thinking back on it, I'm like, I think I might have said in a reaction like, yo, who's the hooded person? Like, it was there, but it wasn't up close and personal. You know what I mean? Like, it was like a throwaway. Like, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have seen it. And that's how it is.
Yeah.
But
it's the
like
dark side version of the IT guy making sure that the presentation.
Yes. Mother Anastasia, you're getting kind of. The moon is not it's not lined up yet.
Your levels are
cannot
peaking?
watch this. Yep. Peeking,
a Sith engineer in the back.
Yeah.
Listen,
Oh
I'm the mic
God.
police, so I have experience in that front.
Oh yeah.
I love it when someone with a mic like this joins and they sound like, yeah, so welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force.
Yeah.
They're like, you're using the wrong mic there. I just turned
Yeah.
on the other mic that's facing the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
But Daxon raises an interesting thought. They said the witches killed a lot of people to make Main Osha a transfer of life essence ritual.
Interesting. Are we calling something reminiscent of oh my goodness, what's his
Nathema.
name?
The ritual of Nathema?
Yeah, well, I was specifically thinking of the canon Darksider that was possessing Kuzo in Shadows of the Sith, and he was
yes. Oh,
Prime Minister Zetok or something.
Baron von Doom or something. he was a royal someone, right?
Administrator
Panchard.
Yes.
Viceroy Panchard. Yes.
Thank you. That was gonna kill my brain. Baron von Rich Dude.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I said Baron von Doom. I was in Doctor Doom headspace.
It's a wonderful place to be.
Speaking of which, do you wanna like get dinner and see Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, because we still have those vouchers from last time. I'll send you a picture of yours so you can big book your ticket. But we'll talk afterwards. These are all possibilities because I think amongst our conversations within the community, there's a lot of people who are exonerating the Coven really quickly. Like they are saying, no, the Jedi are wrong. The Coven are peaceful. The Coven are, they're being very reasonable. And granted, I think that Anastasia is the most reasonable mother amongst the Coven. And she doesn't seem like a villainous antagonist. Yeah. Like we just met the Coven. We've had like over 40 years to critique and analyze the Jedi's hubris. And we still think
they're Halo effect.
Yeah, we still think they're like they have good intentions and they're morally the good guys versus the Sith. But when it comes to a Coven that we just met, it's like we can't really rush to this conclusion. We still have yet to know what May's point of view was, what the Coven's point of view was.
Exactly, and in like this whole episode, I felt like we were getting Osha's point of view.
Yeah.
And a lot of things were misread, and that's the point. It's so funny because it's like I look at it from like, let's look at a different franchise. Look at House of the Dragon for instance. Like its source material is from unreliable narrators, and I feel like we're not getting the whole pieces of the story, and that's very, very clear. Like you should look at the way the witches die, and you should be like,
sus.
That fire didn't do that. Like there's no way. Like in the way that people on the side that take things way too seriously and that don't touch grass on a daily basis, just instantly go, it's bad because the fire killed them. What? You're not second guessing that the fire didn't kill them? Like really? We're gonna go there? That's where you're gonna die? Like, come on.
There was
like
no
what they lit stones. They lit stones on fire, and then you're like,
well, their
Notre Dame burned down recently. Like, don't castles catching on fire is not a new idea. Like, it's not an impossible thing. Plus, that's a red herring within the story itself.
Yeah, the clothes weren't burned either, so they kind of looked at the fire and they were distressed. Oh, and then they all died.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. I don't know. Well, I brought this up in Duel of the Ranks the other night. Did you notice that Osha's paper that she was writing, like her book, is in a pentagram, or not a pentagram, but like a pyramid? And I had pointed out that it kind of looks like a Sith holocron, like the way it's shaped. She's writing in it, and it's got like the three edges that open up in the Sith holocron. So I just found it hilarious how she's like, she's writing in a Sith holocron looking thing, but she's using a Jedi symbol, and I'm like, funny. But
Vane Sensei in my chat, which it's nice meeting you earlier, says, my question is always, why are we mad a mystery is raising questions?
Agreed.
So, that's when
some
my
people
comments
can't handle questions.
Hey, you discovered the mystery part of the mystery show.
Well, they just
is strong with this one.
Steph subscribed to the Dyad.
Hey, thank you for the subscription, Steph.
Thank you, Steph.
But also, KG raises a good question. It was the obelisk. Now,
Wait. The obelisk, as in
The machine. Because in the wide shots, it's
yes.
an obelisk.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the
yeah,
obelisk
yeah,
is floating atop the Hoover Dam, as I call it, and then inside the structure is like an engine. I like to call it the Decade engine.
And it's being powered by a volcano. Like that is, there's lava. You can see that there's lava. In like when they pan down to see where Osha and May are on the platform and it's broken, you can clearly see that there's lava underneath. So it's like a dormant volcano. So I think that's also interesting as well. But yeah, this episode did a lot for the people that don't like to think. It made their brain hurt. I think that's the best way of explaining it. It made their brain hurt, and that's okay to make your brain hurt every once in a while.
I have a question, and this is not meant to sound as an insult to anyone, like truly and honestly. But so there's been a lot of takes that we've seen that seem to lack critical thinking,
intelligence.
But my question is, was that always required in Star Wars? Is it only now that we're getting nuance? And is that bad? Should Star Wars not have that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to get around?
No, yeah,
yeah. I think a lot of people are treating evolution of storytelling and evolution of technique as something that is an encroachment of something that's so sacrosanct that it shouldn't evolve and it shouldn't learn new things, right? So it's like, for example, the first time we got, I don't know if it's the first time we got a Rashomon kind of style, but like the Last Jedi camp happened and so many people just couldn't understand there were two points of views, and one was skewed by the dark side, and the dark side is an unreliable narrator. And that's why like the whole take to me is this doesn't feel like Star Wars is quite a hot take, but in my opinion a garbage take, because Star Wars can be and will be anything it wants to be.
Agreed. I mean, for a prime example, in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke goes into the cave, like, in a way, that's an unreliable narrative. That's the Force telling him what he is thinking. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I gotta say, as a kid, I had no idea what the hell is happening.
No, you're just like, what? It's himself? How is this possible? And then you hear Luke say that it's impossible later, and you're like, I know, man. I was thinking the same thing. But no, it's just like Star Wars has always had differing points of view. It's just now people are starting to realize, oh, it's not all black and white, just like other franchises. It's like, I think that if you make a character like not inherently good or bad, it makes them more interesting. Look at Daemon Targaryen, for example. He's not the greatest person, but he's not the worst person. People root for him because
the
he's
worst person
basically because he's hot.
Yeah, Joffrey is still the worst. That's there's no debate about that. Like Ramsay Bolton, also terrible. But like
as much as I love him in Misfits, he's
terrible. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, but like you see what I mean? Like those types of characters are like ones that today people kind of root for. And it's not good or bad. It's just it's more interesting as a character because us as humans, we're not all good and all bad. We're a mix. Like there's no, man, this guy is so good, so good, so good, because we all have skeletons in our closet. We're not all perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, especially making the connections to other franchises. That's why when Torben drank the poison, I was okay with it, because I was like, when you were a kid, you got Marjorie. So
yes, dude.
So I ain't mad. No. You know what I mean? Like you peaked.
Yes. Can we just talk about how in 16 years he got the worst hairline? Like he was so the bearish vow is just like, dude, the bearish vow, like in like a small context, it's like yeah, you have to also lose hair, have a terrible hairline with this. Are you prepared to sign this?
Did LeBron take the bearish vow as well?
Yeah. Oh man.
Eric Carter says, I also think people can't think critically when they're actively looking to negatively criticize the show at every turn.
I
That's true.
wholeheartedly agree with that.
So we had a conversation earlier today with someone who was anyways, when we asked for an example, because their thing was because of the increasing diversity, the writing is bad. And so like, give an example of the writing being bad, and what they said was the example they used was when they said that a Jedi doesn't pull out their lightsaber unless they're willing to kill. And then we were like, that's not bad writing. Like, that's literally a thing in the High Republic, you know. Like, the Jedi vectors literally don't shoot unless you take out your lightsaber and put it in. You have to have the intent to do something. And after explaining, he's like, oh, I guess that's not bad. And then he just never gave another example.
I just like how is that line? Like I would have got, if I see, like, here's the problem with me. I would have gone full in and I would have been like, so diversity is the problem with that line? Like, how do you make that connection? Because that he
was never able to connect.
No connection.
He just
there's
said,
no connection.
I also think that line is made out of gaslighting, because May wasn't trained by the Jedi.
Nope.
You know, and so there's a lot of statements she could make, like, we don't kill the unarmed. Yes, you do. And another theory that kind of I landed on as I rewatched this is May and Osha wouldn't know the difference between a Jedi and a Sith. And so if you saw a red lightsaber come in and kind of do something during that incident, you would grow up thinking it was the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
They had some knowledge. I mean, she just straight up just draws a Jedi insignia. Like,
yeah, but they hadn't seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's had to have seen something with that.
I mean, she wouldn't say
insignia.
Sith, though, not necessarily, but
No.
There's still more story there. Then that's what I'm really excited to unravel. And as soon as we're peeling through the next layers, there's more mystery. And I really like, because Leslie Hadland originally said, whatever you think this show is, it's not. And so I've also had people say, it was predictable, because they predicted that there was going to be twins and stuff. And you're like, that they showed us that in the first 5 minutes. That's not the mystery.
And it was also in the trailer.
Yeah. It's on the poster.
But even if that were the case, it's like like I did see another comment on my video that said that Star Wars shouldn't be so easy to predict. I'm like, okay, well, so tell us how this show's going to end immediately, like right now, 1-to-1, and predict it.
Yeah.
Because
3 episodes in, and they think that they have all the answers.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of context in the lore, and we're wrapping our heads around how this could end. What is the actual answer? We were watching The Bad Batch, and we were constantly wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think the Jedi would try to recruit May and Osha at such an old age?
I think that the old age is a precedent that was set closer to the prequel trilogy, because you have to remember the prequels with Anakin happened 100 years later. Yeah. And so we have Lula Talasola. We have a bunch of kids that were recruited based on, they went to recruit Zine because she showed potential in the Force. She wasn't a baby. So I think during the time of the High Republic and maybe even the Old Republic, they entertained training people who just had potential in the Force connection. And I think this is the precedence. I think something might happen where the Jedi were like, they're too old now. I think we should,
That's exactly why I think we get the whole too old is he. Like we've
Krista,
seen this
Rael
story
Averroes,
before,
yes.
guys. Like it's like we've seen this story play out before.
We tried it
and
with that
hasn't played
OSHA
well.
chick.
yeah, it didn't work out.
Didn't work out. We tried it with this person. We tried it over here. You know, especially OSHA losing her family like she did.
Yes.
You know, being part of the twin. This could very well be the precedent.
oh my gosh,
But I also-
Dexon. Dexon says, you can't have not easy to predict and hold my
Yes.
hand, answer all my questions every episode at the same
Agreed.
time. Yes.
Agreed. And
That's
that comes back to the how do I say this without sounding like a complete jerk? You can't have either. You can't pick and choose when you have that situation. You know what I mean? Like it's having not the intelligence, but just if you want to look and think for answers, go to the source material itself. Like
We always say that.
we are in the age of the internet. We have these things that you literally have information at the palm of your hands, and you choose not to do it because A, you're lazy, and B, it doesn't fit your narrative. So you're just not gonna
That's
do it
why.
yourself.
By the way, that's why you'll never hear me say Google is free, because you can Google something and have the wrong
it be wrong.
information pop up.
It's true.
But another thing I was thinking for them recruiting them at that age is, so they didn't explicitly state that they were using the dark side, but I mean, come on, you have to. They're aware that people would say that what they're doing is unnatural and they're trying to create children, and they is what the assumption is. It seems that way. Either way, it feels like the Jedi were trying their best to do what they can to save these children from this group.
Yes.
So that seems like that was the impetus of what this group is doing, and this ceremony that's just going to be happening is going to be bad for these kids.
Yes.
We need to give them a chance. You know, we can take them. They can become Jedi or not. That's their choice. And I think, you know, I love that they muddied the water by having Anastasia be such a chill person.
Yes.
And so now you get to question things. But yeah, overall, they were doing it because they thought they were saving these kids.
Yeah.
It's gonna-
KG says,
They weren't going to take them and be like, all right, now to the forest you go.
so KG says,
Yeah.
because older kids are more likely to make decisions for themselves. This goes to our indoctrination kind of thing.
Yes.
That's not the case. I think if we establish that this may be the precedence for the Jedi being weary of training older kids in the prequels, I think it's been what we've been saying for a while now. It's because they've already formed attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And so this kind of rift between May and Osha is a good example of something that they would like to avoid in the future. And if we include the Old Republic legends, we have an instance. It's one of the later expansions, but we have an instance of a Jedi Master who visits an orphanage and asks the nanny, "She's strong in the Force. We would love to train her." And she goes with the Jedi, but the brother is not strong, and they don't take the brother. The brother
Yes.
ends up becoming a Darksider. And so I think that attachment leads to if you've seen the cinematic, that attachment leads to a very conflicted moment between Malgus and that Jedi Master, where his Padawan is thinking back at that moment and thinking of that attachment. And so I think by the time of the prequels, the Jedi were like, yeah, we don't want any kind of attachments there, so that they grow up with that kind of resentment.
Yeah, and it also leads into, hey, we've seen what attachment does to good Jedi, with the exception of some of the High Republic Jedi.
Well, I think
And
that's why
again-
they were so good, because
Yes.
I think so. So the closer they got to the prequels, the more they became jaded to their outcomes, right? They were recruiting Lula, they were recruiting Zine, they were recruiting kids, you know, but they were okay with it. And I think the more as time went on, their outcomes led to, we're assuming, May and Osha, and that led them to be preventative or preemptive in that manner, but it was also the wrong choice, right?
Yes.
Which is something I want to see in the new Jedi Order. I want them to welcome people with attachments and teach them how to deal with it, rather than say,
Agreed.
we don't want you because you come pre-baked with attachments. No, you accept them and all of their baggage, and then you get to know them, you get to know their story, and then
Yeah.
you teach
And
them.
I feel like no one talks about this, but in my opinion, the greatest failing of the Jedi is honestly trying to prevent things. it's
Agreed.
thinking into the future and how that can affect your decisions. Because if you think about it, their long viewed ideologies were correct. Of like, okay, well, if we support the Republic, that means that we can help the largest group of people, and therefore that's going to be the best thing. And by doing that, individuals fall through the cracks. We have, Sifo Dyas, need I say more? And I even have a post that I made, and it's just asking people, and just genuinely, what role do you guys think the Jedi should play? Like, ideally, what's the correct choice? Because we've seen things on both sides. We've seen them here, outside of the Republic, enforcing Republic laws because they think they're doing the right thing, And then I always point to Ahsoka going into a neutral place of Mandalore
Yep.
with an army and deposing their ruler. It's weird. I'm not saying what she did was wrong. I'm saying because
It was
we
done
know
out
who,
of
who
attachment,
Maul
too.
is. Yeah, and we know who Maul is, but like,
Yes.
is that a bad choice? We have to consider the ramifications.
So
Yeah.
going back to elements.
There's also Dooku.
question.
You can't,
yeah,
there's no
Dooku,
blanket statement about training people from infancy or from older child age.
Yes.
Dooku was found as a baby, trained all throughout, became a Jedi Master, and became
Sith Lord.
esteemed. Still fell. So like their reactions to all of these outcomes was hubris and the wrong decisions. And
Agreed.
yeah, that also leads me back to full circle, the New Jedi Order. We need people to explore the attachments more.
Yeah, agreed. I think that what I kind of want to see, and why they started off with like High Republic stuff, is that I think eventually Rey is going to see the High Republic Jedi as like the quintessential.
I want
Like,
to learn
yes,
from
they-
Avar. Like,
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Holocron.
Why did that sound so
Yeah.
sexual?
Want her to learn from Avar.
That was so-
Oh my
Want
god.
an Avar holocron.
So here's my other thing. Going back to Kelnaka crew, New Jedi Order. I want another Jedi Wookiee. Like, it's been like after
It's
Gunji.
been- Sorry.
Gunji. We don't. Well, what if Gunji actually survived? Like, we don't know his
Yeah.
fate. And
That-
after Bad
I
Batch.
legitimately want that. I want them to make a trip to Kashyyyk, and then like we find him like meditating. Like it's just a bunch of Wookiees. Something goes off, and then like the tree is caught by the Force, and it's not Rey, and then Genji steps out.
Yeah.
Look at all
Well,
badass.
no, and he's pulling, and he's
And then he
pulling.
goes,
He's like, and it's like Chewie's like with her for some reason, and it's
and Chewie
like,
does the dog thing.
yeah. Wait, hold on. How you? Wait. Yeah. No, but like, here's the other thing. Like, I think the Jedi in the High Republic is how the Jedi should have been throughout. Like,
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Is that this fall
Damn you, Markian.
is supposed. Yeah. Damn you, Markian. Like though, like it's so good, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see what they use for the new Jedi Order. Specifically who the antagonist is going to be, if there's going to be an antagonist, because or is it antagonist, because like, are we gonna have another Sith again, or what? Like, it's just gonna be interesting to see how they all do that. But it wouldn't surprise me if Rey looked at the height, like, because she has the book, like, looks back at the however far those Jedi texts go, like, there could be High Republic Jedi that I've written in that text, and they could be like, all right, that's kind of how I want the new Jedi Order to go, and that's the way they do it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the holocrons that Luke is letting his students watch is Avar Kriss. You know,
Yes.
I want her to find Avar Kriss's holocron.
Agreed.
I want her to find. Just kidding.
Avar
So
and
can we-
Avar.
Can we establish something though?
Yeah.
Can we establish the nomenclature or the naming convention of Wookiees? So we have Chewbacca Bakachu. We have Buriaga Agaburi. And I wonder if Tarful is Fultar. Tarful Fultar.
He's full of something.
If it's Gunji G Gunj. And if it's Tarkov Kovtar. So it's like, is that their new naming convention? Can we say Gunji G Gunj?
So then, is it Kelnaka Kel? Kelnaka Kel? Hey, it's not bad. Sounds like a I don't know what it sounds like, but
We
no,
have Big
like,
ZZ Big. Can you imagine walking
Lumpy,
around, my name is
Lumpy D
Z-Big.
Lumpy.
Lumpy P Lum.
That just sounds like Luffy from One Piece. Like, yeah.
Shout out
But
to
no,
Dazzler in the chat.
Yeah, Brooke.
Black chrysanthemum.
I want to see the baby.
Cat black.
Yeah, he is. The cat is with Alanis, so he is not with me. So you'll have to ask her for pictures. We got a ragdoll cat.
I don't even. I thought, man, maybe she
No,
was
baby?
Maybe
Oh.
Brooke was asking about the real cat baby, or I was just connecting it with I would like to see the baby.
Yeah, I'd like to see the baby, and I think that's what she was going for. But no, yeah, he's with mom. So
St. Pat says, what about Black Chrysanthemum? It's Chrysanthemum Chrysanthemum?
Santin Kerr.
Santinker black.
Chrysanthemum Black.
Black.
It's like
Santinker black.
Chrysanthemum Black.
Oh man.
Anyways, back to
how I've missed you guys.
well, not back to Acolyte. Just really quickly, Krista in TikTok side asks, "Are you guys excited for Outlaws? What do you guys hope for it?"
Ooh,
I'm
yes.
excited for it. So I got to talk a bit, and actually it's probably live on YouTube right now. I haven't made any shorts from it yet. But I spoke to Kyle Katarn, who got to play it. The feel was very Red Dead Redemption in space. Was what he said, which people have been clamoring for years. If we remember this fandom, they've been like, I just want to run around and do weird stuff in the galaxy of Star Wars.
I've been clamoring for Mass Effect, but Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, it may be the case.
Hey, I mean, from what I've seen so far, like, the gameplay looks incredible. The story intrigues me. We're we're in a era where between Empire and Jedi, we've only really touched upon in the comics and the books a little bit, but like
And
going
the makers
through
are
and
fans of the comics.
yes, they are fans of the comics because we are getting the. I think we get Valance. I think Hayden gets Valance in the flesh. I think he'll show up in like a DLC or something.
I think we get
And-
Domina because I want Domina.
Okay, so you said that with the same energy as the
Hypocrites.
I want Domina and Ray to learn from Avar.
Oh my god.
You know what I hope for it is that I hope that it is an episodic TV show with gameplay in between, because from what I've
Yes.
seen of the conversations after you like do the gameplay and the mission and the objectives and you go talk to like some dude from another faction, it looks cinematic. It's very kind of like, you know, cutscene is just like a TV show. You're watching her interact with all of these factions, and I hope it continues in that regard where we kind of get our lore and our content like watching a video game TV show, but we get to play in between.
Yeah. No doubt. And Hondo Anaka, sign me up. Sign me
Yeah?
up. That'd be hilarious. And I love the fact that it's like GTA and the Empire are the police, which makes the most sense to me.
Do you guys think we'll see Cal Kestis again? Because I need him. If there's another Jedi game, there's probably another Jedi.
There
game.
is a third one. I thought they said that it was already in production.
I applied
They were
for it.
writing in. There you go.
But yeah, we'll see him again.
Mm-hmm.
KG
Do you
says
think he'll
Element has
show up in-
ASMR in his future. I've always had ASMR.
Do we think that
say Hondo Onaka Ka Ono Oda Ana.
Onaka.
Odoha? Odo?
Kaona? Kaona Dohan. Yeah, that's what Choco said.
This sounds like a Hawaiian word. I like
Yes,
it.
it does.
Hondo Onaka Koina Hon.
Ohana means family.
Ohana is family.
Oh my god, you two.
But ever in live action, we'll see. I mean, they've already got the actor.
Yeah, I don't know. Possibly.
Listen,
I think
we've been-
I think it's more likely that he will show up in something
But
than.
let me tell you, we've been eating in the video game adaptation department.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because Fallout.
Now, I'm not saying we're going to get an adaptation of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor.
Oh no, heck no.
But
No.
it's like we get a live action show or a movie based in that universe, based in that, you know, that vein.
That era. Yeah. No.
Side note, I wonder what would happen if like that side of the fandom ever found out that they wanted the protagonist to be a black woman, and that Lucasfilm was like, no, you're doing and then they came up with
I wonder if that
Cal
side of the fandom ever found out that Cal is a white guy,
Kestis.
because they don't seem to know. You know, they're erasing white men.
I don't know.
Well, it seems like they forgot that Diego Luna was Latino. Like they're like, oh yeah, he's close enough to be white. You know,
That's
we
the
had that
most racist
conversation. Yeah, but like that's how they feel. Like that's the funny part is like they are like, and that got brought up last night in our stream. Like we were talking about how that side of the fandom like gets so like they love Andor, but if you really think about it, they should hate it because like everything that the rebellion stands for is opposite of that viewpoint of that side that they love in real life.
Well, just in general, all of the comments that say, I wish they would focus on a good story rather than casting, when all these people are just spending 24/7 focused on the casting.
Agreed.
They're not focused on the story either.
No, they aren't. They aren't focused on the story, and if they were, then they would stop saying that. You know?
Yeah. It's It's like, okay, what is this story? No, there's a Mexican. Boy, hold on.
Yeah, and that's fair, Kay. Like a lot of the fandom didn't like Andor. Well, that was more or less the people that were grifting.
It wasn't from the writing. The writing's
No.
solid in Andor.
Yeah, the writing is probably top tier, and this is from someone that loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. Andor is by far the best Star Wars show right now. Acolyte could take that, but for right now, writing, story, like characters, Andor is the bar. Andor
Honestly,
is
as far as the quality of writing, right below Andor, the next best writing is in Bad Batch.
yeah, I would agree, and I think closely behind that is probably Rebels.
I'd say in terms of live action, the Acolyte so far has had some really good writing in it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But Krista also says same side of the fandom that complains that they have to play as a woman in Outlaws, and I feel like people need to start being fluid with their avatar choices. Like, literally, I've
Start
played,
watching anime. That's what.
my avatar in World of Warcraft was a female most of the time. I changed when I wanted to be an orc because they just looked better in armor as an orc. My main in Destiny is a female body because they look better in the armor. And I just, it's all aesthetics to me. I don't really care if I'm like, oh, I chose a woman because I'm feminine. No, they just look better in the armor. And I'm looking at this character 24/7 when I play. It's just, I want better aesthetics. It has nothing to do with, it even doesn't have to do with diversity or representation. I just feel like they look better in armor. That's it.
I legitimately don't notice anymore. But I've always said my thing, especially with video games, is I'll make a black dude, and if the game like creation doesn't make good black characters, I'll make a woman.
True.
Yeah, there you go.
I did try at first to make this, but most of the time character creators can't make this.
You try to make a black guy in Cyberpunk? It looks so weird. It looks so weird.
Oh man.
But I'm also fine with avatars based on actors too, because they're good looking people, Cal Kestis, Kay Vess, Umberly.
I've been trying to get you to,
I'm not gonna say that in that same voice. Yeah.
Thank you. Although I've been wanting you to play Mass Effect Andromeda, and they actually do good Asian people. Like that, it's an Asian preset. It's an Asian preset.
Saying that to someone who had like such reservations about the facial animations and the emotion in Andromeda, I'm just like I have trouble believing that, but they probably fixed it. But it's just funny saying like they have the best Asian people. Oh, so they look like this? My face is tired.
It's still better than what is it, Bethesda games where everyone looks scared all the time.
You remember my video on Starfield? That person just walked by like this. Hey man, it's a game, all right? So you just gotta take life as it comes, You gotta stop complaining about shit. If a game comes out and you can only be a woman, take that story in. You get the female perspective. If it was written by a woman, even more so. But like, you get to play as a black person. If it was written by a black person, take that story in. But like, don't feel like all of your games need to be either a white man or this. It's like the story is going to be what the story is. The character is going to be what that story wants. In this case, Yasuke. They're telling the story of a foreigner who found himself in Japan, became a samurai. The native perspective is Nahue. So that's the story. Like, it doesn't...
Yeah.
You can't stop arguing about it should have been a Japanese man. Like,
That-
By the way, the gameplay of just running through the paper walls and stuff looks pretty
That's
cool.
and it's just so funny that it's just like it's so funny to see people that are white talk about, well, that's not historically accurate, and then the Japanese well, the
We know, Yasuke.
yeah, they're like, no, that's a real thing. And it's like, oh my god, are you gonna argue with the people that the story is based with? Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's not that. Nope. That's when I like the Assassin's Creed cult is scary. That fandom is scary.
You want to know why?
Why? Why?
Because the last couple ones were Spartan main characters and then
Oh, that's
Viking
true.
main characters.
Oh, that's true.
Those are
That's
the
a good
two
point.
things that are beloved by certain people.
People. That's true. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, those people can't see past an inch in front of their eyes. I mean,
Yeah.
like, for example, Brooke says in the chat, Aloy, Abby, Kves, and Aloy. Master James Kenobi says, don't tell the fandom about Horizon Zero Dawn, but Aloy.
Aloy's been getting strays for a hot minute
but
now.
people don't realize Aloy was trained by a man, right? If you want to make an argument about the Japanese male perspective, there is a master of Inoue. I forget his name now, but he's also an important figure. They don't always have
Mei
to be
and
the
Osha have
playable
men
characters. You know, we get the story of that person, and there are male figures and female figures in their life. They're part of the story, so you can't just like look at main characters and be like, oh, it's all about that. You know, it's like, just relax, dude. But back to Acolyte.
Sorry, whenever I come on, I just like I bring
No,
in
we're
different energy.
reacting to the chat, which is what we love to do. But we are on the Acolyte, and I suppose we can start to wrap up this topic by kind of asking the question, what do you think really happened? Because we have one perspective, and do you think it's Osha's, the Jedi's, or the Coven's perspective? Because we still don't even know about that. We don't see. We know it's not May's, because we don't see anything from May's point of view. What happens on that side? And again, whose perspective is it before the incident happens? Because we are starting in the Coven's point of view, and the Jedi intrude on them. Right? We don't see what the Jedi were doing beforehand. And you know, there's a lot of mixtures of points of views in the show. But
Yeah.
more importantly, the incident. What do you guys think happened?
Well, just real quick, I hope the next episode is the same episode, but just solely from the Jedi's perspective, of them being like this dark side group, and they have a ritual that they do every now and then where that like ruins the lives of these children and all this stuff, and they're like, we have to save them, and you're like, oh, they were good. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping.
I do have a hot take for our next segment, but according to that, but yeah, Eric Carter, there was a pope that was a wizard in the Assassin's Creed case. So
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I did
That's
a Kage
wild.
Bunshin, and I beat the hell out of that pope. Pope Rodrigo didn't know I hit him.
So I think what's gonna happen next, I think we're gonna I think we're gonna go back to the present. We're gonna get May confronting Kelnaka and also
like
Soul
Kel-May.
and all of them. Oh, jeez. I think I think they're gonna touch on that, for sure. But they are definitely going to come back to this flashback, and I think from what we saw was mostly Osha's. What we saw in this last episode was Osha's interpretation of things that happened. I think that what's going to happen is that Mother Anastasia is going to manipulate Kelnaka, and Kelnaka is going to run rampant,
interesting.
especially on Torben, because he does have a whole bunch of marks on his face, and in that flashback where Osho does wake up, Kelnaka is not on that ship, at least not with them at that point. He could have been. It's a huge ship, but like he's not with them, and that's very telling. But I
mean,
also
she
think,
ain't even gonna mind control me. She could just ask.
yeah, no, seriously.
You said that in a sexual voice.
Oh my God, you two,
It's
you two are
Choco's
just
turn. He is sexual chocolate, of course.
sexual chocolate. But I also think that the convent is going to self-sacrifice themselves with the poison, which then brings back to why Torben is so okay with taking it in the last episode. And I think Choco might have brought this up during Duel of the Ranks.
I do like
if
that.
I remember correctly.
I do like that. Simply because of the four, who are the ones that have left or have taken a vow? Torben and Kelnaka.
Yes.
Because he's not in his robes. He's living on like a crashed vessel. And, you know, that's certainly
a big sign in Treework that says keep out.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
We have Dexon saying Coral is the bad one. She's the acolyte.
Coral.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Like, what is she? Because she, during this whole episode, was like, Anasea, you're being a little too loose with these kids. They need structure. They need to be disciplined. And Anasea was like, I created them. I can do what I want. And can we just talk about how they basically were like, yeah, we sort of created life, and we're like basically IVF. Like we created IVF in Star Wars.
The Force in vitro. This is what I called it during the
yeah.
But I also think, as I mentioned earlier, I think that is a super hyperbolic statement. I created them. There's many interpretations of that. It could be gross exaggeration. It could be that, the machine has something to do with it. And just like Doug Jackson said earlier, there could have been a large, self-sacrifice of a lot of witches in order to enact that. I mean, what did you see, John?
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's probably. I wasn't looking at anything. My mind went. The machine is like some type of man milker machine.
Oh my!
Jeez. And they're like, there is no father. They're like, it's just a recurring like. I'm sorry.
The machine is a large IVF.
Oh my God!
And their unnatural was going around harvesting seeds, right?
Oh my God!
Sith donors, St. Pat says.
Sith
it's just one of those like rotating vats like that keeps your slushy,
yes,
the slushies from freezing.
Brooks' comment is right. Yeah, they remind me of the Bene Gesserit.
That's true.
That fits into the narrative. Like Dune was a big inspiration to George when he was creating Star Wars. He created the Force to basically be like the voice that they have in Dune.
Yeah, I was having Wheel of Time also kind of flashbacks too.
Oh yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Bene Gesserit.
Craig in TikTok says, did you really have to refer to it as harvesting seeds given the Kelnaka talk? It had nothing to do with Kelnaka, but I see your point. Sometimes topics swerve into each other like freight trains. It's gonna happen. But another interesting take also is that there's another Chekhov's gun in this, which is the Bunta tree.
Yeah.
They linger on that and they say this is dangerous, and they say only if we ingest it or only if we eat it. Okay, that's information not only just going backwards to the Bunta poisoning of Torben, but it's going forward. Yes. And there's a real possibility that they may have been poisoned. The question is, was it willingly? Did somebody poison their drinks or something, or what have you? Now, a lot of people will say, well, they would be able to detect it because OSHA smelt it. But I argue that she was only able to detect it because it was pure Bunta poison. on Torben and on in that vial, but you would have to be a really, really good poison crafter or alchemist to detect a small hint of poison within your blue milk, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I lean more towards the toits. I'm from Queens.
You're from Jersey? You're from Jersey, where my neck of the woods,
I gotta
Jersey.
get coffee and I gotta get coffee and
in a bagel. In a bagel.
I lean towards the poison because their bodies were not damaged. There was no struggle, and it felt like they all just kind of dropped where they were, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And of course, the biggest one is that Coral wasn't among the bodies, so it's kind of like, where does that thread go? But what do you guys think?
Hey, I'm walking here. Sorry, chaos is to do that.
I'm walking over here. We got a Jacques
I'm walking here.
Cousteau.
Yeah, just so here.
You know
A
what's,
bison.
sorry, just a random thought. What's interesting is they wanted to show the additional power that comes from having multiple force users, almost as if it's not additive but multiplicative or exponential, and that in and of itself explains the power of the Jedi.
Yes.
And why the Sith can't truly compete, because they can never actually give themselves to one another.
When they don't have the numbers.
That's such a good
Remember,
point.
yeah. No, that is a very good point, because like the Jedi are all taught to be, we are one, like we work together, whereas the Sith are
Jedi.
dum 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 dum, and then like a lightsaber, and it has like the Jedi. It's like a
someone make
like,
that.
I'd
Someone
also
yeah,
like to point out,
yeah.
as Keanu Reeves, that we're talking about harvesting seeds, and your name is Jedi Master Eggs.
Hey, the Egg Master. Anyway,
Let's talk about eggs.
let's talk about eggs. Come on, guys. I don't know where I was going with that. You guys have like
so
taken my
sorry.
train of thought and thrown it away.
Died in the Force derails.
That's usually Pod one's derails. That happened quite
I think
often
just in
in the early
general.
days.
I
Just
feel
in
like
general,
you're the
Star
common
Wars.
denominator, Luke.
I'm sorry. And my little finger now, chaos is a ladder. You know, like I'm just here to fuck shit up.
No, in your case, chaos is a trellis. Because you don't know where the next rung is. You're just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna wade through these vines and just
Yeah.
just
try to
improvise
figure
my
it
way
out.
up.
Yeah, pretty much. But no.
Try to find your train.
What was the question again?
You know, we were talking about what could have happened to all of the Coven and how they died, and then if whether it was poison or
it's
else.
poison. It's poison, and I think it's. I think eventually, like, the Jedi are going to struggle with the Coven. They're gonna take over Kalnaka. Kalnaka's gonna like force the Jedi to kind of fight him, and in that time, Kalnaka's gonna hurt Torben, and per proxy, Sol and Indira are gonna have to do something to save Torben. Once they get that all figured out, they're going to corner the convent, and they're gonna take the poison because they aren't gonna want to be taken alive. And that's. I hope I didn't just spoil that for everybody, because I feel like that's pretty on point of what could happen.
Yeah. I also think this is the moment where the Sith shows up and finds May
Ooh,
and starts to gaslight them. It's like, it was the Jedi.
Yes.
They
Absolutely.
killed everyone with 0 lightsaber ones.
They just force choked them all simultaneously. Come on.
It could happen.
How to recognize witches, like, for women who speak.
It has to whisper. Hey,
Oh
listen,
my-
the elder of that council
Oh,
She
yeah.
She was like, I don't know what species she was. Looked like she was like at least 800 years old.
Yeah. Do we
Just-
think that this could be an offsect of Path of the Open Hand? Because I know that's been discussed as well.
I thought so, but I'm still kind like the moment they started using the Force, I was like, nope.
No. Yeah.
But also, I'm leaning on my kind of Church of the Sith ideology because they were exiled. So,
Yes.
I mean, we'll see. I just don't see them like the entire thought process is them being exiled, and people know that they view their arts to be dark and unnatural. And so those are two kind of indicators of Sith ideology, but not Sith. And then we have Filoni talking to Leslie saying that not all witches are Night Sisters. And I thought that as well, like they were kind of like that mountain clan from the Tales of the Empire.
Yes.
But
Very much so.
when he said not all witches are Night Sisters, I was like, well, they're witches, but witches of the Sith. You know what I mean?
Also, I mean, this is just a side point to remember. I need to revisit this myself, but in the book that I seem to reference every week, Clone Wars: Stories of Light and Dark, there's one unique story in that book, and it seems to hint of Night Sister creating a daughter. Do you recall?
Remind me which one that is. Remind me which one that is. Is that the Ventress one?
No, there's a book. It's the last book, the last story in that book, and it's, yeah, and it's a new story about, basically it's about a Night Sister that was separate from the rest of them, and that kind of like that essentially created a daughter, ended up losing that daughter, and then was. She ended up adopting someone from.
And it was
Something
Stories
else
of Light
there,
and
but-
Dark, right?
Clone Wars: Stories of Light and Dark. Yeah, the whole book just retells stories from the Clone Wars, but from very specific perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this was the final story in there, and the only unique story that was not part of any episodes.
Was it Bug? Was it the Bug one?
Bug.
Bug, which
I'll have
is
to-
Massacre. It's like It's the episode of Massacre. Yeah, it's the Night Sisters. It has to be that last one.
Yeah,
Hold on.
it takes place after the massacre. It's like it's not part of that story.
KG asks if Coral was Smilo Ren, why would May not know who it is? Let's entertain this notion real quick because I think we can talk about this for a minute or two. You know, I think someone on the dark side can definitely mask and shroud themselves in secrecy, just like Palpatine does.
Yeah.
Hides himself in plain sight in front of almost the entire Jedi Council. So someone with May's training for sure wouldn't be able to kind of, you know, extrapolate or kind of discover the identity of someone in a mask. You know, what are you guys' thoughts?
I think it could be likely. I mean, again, we didn't see her body. We didn't see her at the end of that episode. She wasn't among the fallen, so something has to have happened to Coral. And I'm leaning towards her not surviving for some reason. Don't ask me why, but I don't think that she is going to be Smilo Ren. I think I do like Kay's thing. Smilo Ren is the father/donor. That opens my brain up to Tenebrous and Plagueis thoughts, but I won't get into that because it's if I get going, I'll get going, and we don't want that. So I think that is very, very interesting. That Smilo Ren is either the father/donor, or the Sith are the ones that are manipulating the Convent into doing their bidding. That's also a possibility that has been thrown out as well, which makes sense because the Sith use everyone. Like that's their MO.
I'm gonna make you go ham, because one of my deeper theories is that the Coven were hunted down, forced into hiding, and they needed someone to help them.
Yes.
A benefactor, if you will.
Mhm.
Someone who will bankroll their entire existence on this thing.
Freaking
And that benefactor
Mask.
is Damask Holdings.
The mask. Like literally, like my brain rot for Higo Damask / Darth Plagueis in this show, because like my whole thing with Plagueis showing up eventually is that like we're talking about the downfall of the Jedi, and in Plagueis in Legends, I'm not saying they're gonna adapt this story, but like Leslie Headland is a huge Legends girly, so it's like we could get Plagueis because. For right or for wrong, his decisions that he makes is the domino effect of what we see in the prequels. If he doesn't, bankroll the Kaminoans, he doesn't discover the Kaminoans and makes them into the thing.
Sorry.
No, all good. Dang it. See, I wish we could see like the TikTok chat as well, because then like whenever Choco says something, I'm like, I get thrown off. But no, like the decisions he makes sets up Palpatine for the success that he eventually has, and I think that's so important. So I want to see something. Like, I'm not saying that the show won't be good if we don't get Plagueis, because we don't necessarily need Plagueis, because we know what happens to
we need the Wizard of Oz,
prequels.
basically. We need the person behind the curtain, I think.
Exactly.
Which is one of my other possibilities, is that through bankrolling the Coven, Plagueis was trying to experiment. That was one of his experiments with the Force, with creating life. And as soon as the Jedi found that Coven and started investigating, Plagueis was like, cat's out the bag, I need to start from scratch. And so he does something to wipe out the Coven, or he does something to make the Jedi wipe out the Coven. Something with Torben and Kelnaka, perhaps, but there's definitely a Darksider behind everything that is kind of moving the pieces on the board.
Yeah, and that whole thing has been my exact theory. Is that I kept using Tenebris because Tenebris was more technology oriented versus Plagueis being more biology oriented, and we had the big machine. But I kept likening him to Orochimaru in Naruto, where Orochimaru just had experiments set up all throughout the Leaf Village, and then like you'd be a random ninja who would be like, oh, if I do this, I'll gain more power, and then you turn into like a giant tiger monster. And then he'd be like, oh, that's what happens. Okay.
We do have to consider that.
This is just one of the experiments. He probably has them going all over the place, and he's just collecting data at this point in time.
Yeah.
And all the data is what goes into what they end up doing later on.
Yeah.
No,
you have
yeah,
to consider Plagueis the Wise. How? If he's masquerading as a banker, like, how is he gathering all of this information? How is he getting all this data? He's got people working for him. Just like Choco said, experiments all over.
No, I love the comparison between Plagueis / Tenebris to Orochimaru, because it's so true. Like, if you look at Plagueis in the books, like, he is basically Orochimaru. Like, he's just out here, like, creating shit on, like, 4 different planets, and, like, the Jedi have no idea what he's doing. And it's
Jedi.
I told Choco this. I always default to Sarutobi Sensei.
Sarutobi Sensei. No, man. Oh, I think I need to go back and rewatch Naruto. Harith hasn't watched it yet. Oh, we need to do that. Oh,
It hasn't watched what?
Naruto.
Just any of it?
Any of it.
Wow.
I know. We gotta indoctrinate him now.
We need
But
to make
anyway.
a video right now, just being toxic all over Harris. You haven't watched Naruto?
Naruto?
Dude, do you even call yourself a Star Wars fan without watching Naruto?
Naruto?
Oh my god! Don't you know Orochimaru is basically Plagueis?
If you haven't watched Naruto, you're not a Star Wars fan.
Oh my
You
god!
just make leaps like that. If you haven't watched Demon Slayer, you're not a Star Trek fan. Jesus.
Young Master said, I just found out last week that the big bad in Naruto ended up being a space alien. Listen.
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
the original
anime,
Dragon Ball
right?
was just about people learning kung fu and fighting each other. I don't like. Now he's fighting gods amongst other dimensions and stuff. It's just an anime thing. We roll with it.
And he fights a cat that is a god that kills people.
Well,
Is he a dog or is he a rabbit or is he a mixture of both?
I'd say he's reminiscent of Anubis, right?
Who are we
know
talking
Oh, that
about?
makes sense.
Who are we talking about?
Beerus?
Yeah, Beerus.
See, he's like a
It's like
coyote
a cat.
monster.
Yeah, yeah.
I always
He's
thought
truly
Beerus,
what Wile E-
I always thought Beerus was kind of an anthropomorphic version of a Siamese cat or a Siamese. Yeah.
So here's my running theory. Since he said coyote, he's just wild coyote when he finally catches the roadrunner. He just becomes Beerus.
That's the level he has to get to catch the coyote.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see for episode 4 and what we're going to find out there. But there's lots of theories floating around, lots of takes that are going from the right to left to center field and even in the foul. Some fouls, but we'll have to wait until next week for that episode 4. But let's move on to our 5 to 10 minute segment on hot takes before I wrap things up. I do have a hot take to present to the council today.
Go for it. I don't have any.
I have one. I do have one as well. So.
it involves what we were talking about earlier about the misconception of indoctrination and transplanting your religious trauma onto the Jedi. There's a lot of people who need and want the Jedi to be seen in an evil setting. And I keep and they cite Leslie Headland saying, "Oh, this is a show that's going to critique. It could be a critique on the Jedi." And I have to say, a critique on the Jedi does not mean that they're going to be evil.
Agreed.
We already have plenty of critiques of the Jedi. They shouldn't have been there. You know, they're intruding on the Coven. Seemingly, they're not in Republic space. And so already there's an overreach of power. But that doesn't mean that the Jedi will do evil. Like, I was watching a live conversation between Breyer and JJ and Kari, where they said the Jedi need to be responsible for this because I just need that, and it felt like a need born out of trauma, where you needed to be you needed affirmation of how you felt about the Jedi, and I feel like there's plenty of there's plenty of critiques to go around on the Jedi. Their hubris, their overreach of power, their connections and corruption with the Senate and the Republic. Plenty of critiques and flaws and mistakes, but a critique on the Jedi doesn't mean that they were evil this whole time. Like, these people it seems like these people want to be justified in rooting for the Empire. I'm not saying that that was the case for Breyer and that conversation.
Got it. Yeah.
But that general sentiment of, I need the Jedi to have massacred the Coven because, and I feel like it's like sequentially following that thought, so that I know that they were wrong this whole time, in the Empire. You know, it's like a slippery. I know it's a slippery slope argument.
Very slippery slope argument. Yeah, for sure.
But we have to recognize critiques are not condemnations or indictments.
Agreed. No, absolutely. Like, you're spot on there. Like, And the whole religious trauma thing also can be told for people that are quote unquote Anakin stans. Like they put that religious trauma and all of that on that character. And that just isn't fair to the character. One, two, like stop doing it. Like making that your whole personality. I'm sorry, it's just off-putting. So off-putting. But like I don't know. It's just so weird to me. Like I love Anakin Skywalker. I the reason why I love him so much is that he is flawed. And at the end of the day, that's the whole point. Is that they build him up and they try to make and give him these expectations, and he's not able to meet them. And I think that's one of the most endearing things about is that he fails and he doesn't learn from his failure, and that's the whole point. And people just miss that point completely.
Dex Dello said, as a Sith fanboy, I need the Jedi to stay as amazing as they are and stay the heck out of my evil dark side. That's our shtick.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
Krista V says, I think a lot of people, and maybe just the characters, want the Jedi to be held responsible for their actions. They get away with a lot just for the sake. And that's an entirely different conversation. Yeah. Of course, the Jedi should be held responsible, held accountable for any of their mistakes that they make. But just in general, wanting them to be... This hot take is about wanting them to be viewed in an evil light. Like, this take is in response to the Acolyte for the massacre of the Coven, and where people were like, I need the Jedi to be responsible for the massacre of the Coven so that they can have affirmation in viewing the Jedi as evil this whole time. That's the hot take. I'm not saying the Jedi should never be criticized, but in response to the massacre.
The fact that Choco was literally fighting his cat, going, while Element's just giving this like whole soliloquy was hilarious. But I agree. No, I agree. My hot take, it's not even. It doesn't even have anything to do with the Acolyte. I think. Because just recently, I think it was this week or it was yesterday, the Clone Wars video game, the old 2002 game, is now on PlayStation. And growing up as a kid, I loved that story with Thule and everything like that. I think that I would be okay with them adapting that into a Clone Wars, like making that canon. Because I love the lore with it. I love that it, and honestly, you could make it into like Mike Chen says, like the 2003 Clone Wars is like HoloNet like stories told.
It's propaganda.
It's
propaganda.
It's Republic propaganda. But like I also love that story because we get Renvar, we get Thule. We get all of these. Yes, we get Shaggy, and like
I thought you said charcuterie.
Charcuterie. Yeah, charcuterie. But I think that if you wanted to make that canon, I think it would be seamless to make it early on, even before Christophsis, and I think it would work. That's my hot take. It's a kind of a low hanging fruit hot take,
yeah,
but it's very common.
I you know what, I agree that it would be kind of seamless, but it's a hot take for a reason, and that's because get out of Clone Wars. Stop it.
That's true.
We don't need any like the whole like, oh, I think they're going to do a live action Clone Wars. Like, stop it. We have Clone Wars.
No, yeah, I'm just saying for my own like I don't even need it in a live action. I just want them to be like, stamp that game story is canon, and I would be okay with it. I don't need to see it in any other thing, but like stamp it and be like, yeah, that happened. Like if that happened, like if that story happened in canon, I'd be happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I forget which book it was that they have the power to do that. I mean, I forget which book that it released right on the cusp of the transfer of of IP rights to Disney, but it was written under Lucas's ownership. I think it was Heir to the
Heir to the Jedi is one of
Heir
the
to the
terrible Luke
Jedi.
books.
Yeah, they made an executive decision to include that in canon. So they
What,
could
a
have
video
that.
game?
The book, Heir to the Jedi.
Oh, okay.
So it was
That
published
would be-
under Lucasfilm before the purchase, but Disney decided to make it canon.
See, it's just that easy. It's
Yeah.
just that easy. Just do it. Come on. What?
I actually do have a quick hot take, and this is more letting people know what what to expect from me coming forward. Is my rule of thumb is for any TV show, it's 3 episodes, and you're in or you're out. You don't need to see any more if you've hated all 3, and so if you don't like the Acolyte episode 4 and beyond, I don't care.
Agreed.
I'm gonna be a lot less charitable to people if they're still watching and don't like it. Like you should know by now. Go away. You're done.
Yeah. Hey, I wish I had it as a key to play a clip over top of us, but you know, Holden McNeil and Jay and Silent Bob, sad, pathetic, militant movie buffs who are downloading scripts and insider movie information from actors and directors from people that they despise, yet they can't seem to stop discussing. It's like the comments like saying this show is trash on my episode 3 discussion, and like I said in the beginning of this podcast, like I'm talking about the show. Like, get out of here. Like, why are you in the discussion of the show if you think it's garbage and your only contribution to this conversation is it's garbage? Like, we're looking for people to talk about it, talk about the contents, what's happening.
Yeah, it's just not good faith discussion. Why is the writing bad? Oh, because it's bad. But I would like an explanation of why it's
Why
bad.
is the writing bad? Because
Or
the Jedi died to a dagger instead of a lightsaber.
oh my god, that one is
We're not
just
gonna
like,
go into
bro,
that. I'm just listing that as one of the comments. One of the examples they told me. I was like, that's not writing. That's literally just a plot decision. Like,
no fire outside space. Are we just gonna forget that?
profit.
Forward into the black super chat at a $4.99 ramen drop. No, absolutely not. Kathleen Kennedy needs to bow to my every desire and make a movie where Evan and Starkiller beat up Rey. Pouting face, pouting face, pouting face.
Thank you, Chase, for that $4.99 super shot ramen drop.
Oh my
I was watching Harith and Chase's live stream of KOTOR, and we got into like this skit of trying to out toxic each other. It was funny, but yeah, love it. Thank you, Chase. As long as we don't have any other hot takes, I think that's that'll wrap things up for this episode. Very, very interesting conversation. Again, we'll have to wait until episode 4 and the rest of the show to see what actually happened, or if they ever reveal what actually happened. Because in Rashomon Essence, you don't truly know who is the reliable narrator in this case. Whose point of view is actually the version of events that happened.
Truth.
You know?
Yeah.
But Acolyte is going strong. It's a strong show, and the story is full of intrigue, and the answers pile onto more questions. Any final thoughts, guys?
Let the show play out. That's literally all I have to say is like, let the show play out. Stop. And exactly what Choco just said. If you are not vibing with the show after 3 episodes, awesome. Stop watching it. It's obviously not made for you. It's obviously not your cup of tea. Move on. Get out of here. We don't want to hear your takes. We don't want to hear all these things, and you shouldn't go into what hate watching. Hate watching just makes you a miserable person. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Choco?
Long and short.
Sexual chocolate?
Day Choco.
May is Bay.
Jordy's
Oh,
horn.
Kalnaka Crew, by the way. Join it. We give out Wookiees cookies and blue milk to new members. And also
Soul
head
Patrol.
scratches. Can we all just be like groups of everything? Can we just like commingle?
Okay, question.
But that would be inclusionary and diverse.
Luke, you give out Wookiee cookies and blue milk. So I'm gonna say my group gives out chocolate milk. And Pep, do you guys give out soy milk?
I don't even think soy milk is an Asian thing.
I just, it's a terrible joke. I'm sorry, I had it.
I think an Asian thing is banana yogurt milk. So small Yakults,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Um, Yeah, but that'll do it for this episode of Dyad in the Forest 175. We're really getting up there in the episodes. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching and always supporting us. And just making sure this stays strong and goes strong up into the hundreds and even the thousands. And we're hoping, by the time we reach the thousands, we'll have our physical studio and we will fly people out to guest on our show. And that's the ambition, that's the dream. Hopefully that's the case.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
that's it. On to the next one.
For life.
We are all the ACOLYTE.
And may Thane give you all hugs with his claws.
Meow.
Meow.